How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just want to come on here for a while and give him a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dark Elevation from last night, which was June 28th, 2021. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match one, it was the Gun Club, which are Billy and Colton Gunn, versus the Wingmen, which are Ryan Nemeth and JD Drake. That was a great match, but the ending to it, the Gun Club went over because Billy Gunn pinned Ryan Nemeth with the Famouser. Match two, it was Penelope Ford versus Valentina Rossi. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Penelope Ford went over with the Gut Buster. Match three, it was Brian Cage versus Serpentico. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Brian Cage went over with the Drill Claw. Match four, it was Carl Anderson versus Wheeler Yuta. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Carl Anderson went over with the stun gun. But after the match, the Young Bucks, which are Matt and Nick Jackson, and Doc Gallows were in the ring with Carl Anderson, and Nick Jackson was walking all over Wheeler Yuta, and Carl Anderson threw Wheeler Yuta out of the ring and everything, and the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers stood tall and everything, which that was cool. Match five, it was the Nightmare Family, which are Dustin Rhodes, Lee Johnson, and Brock Anderson versus Adrian Alanis, Liam Gray, and Justin Corino. That was a great match, but the ending to it, the Nightmare Family went over cause Dustin Rhodes pinned Adrian Alanis with the Bulldog. Match six, it was the Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens versus PB Smooth and Matt Justice. That was a great match, but the ending to it, the Acclaimed went over cause Max Caster pinned Matt Justice with the mic drop. Now, before the match, after PB Smooth and Matt Justice were already out to the ring, the Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, came out to the ring, and Max Caster done a rap on Matt Justice and PB Smooth, and Anthony Bowens done his signature line saying, AEW, the Acclaimed have arrived. That was cool. Match seven, it was Riho versus Kylan King. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Riho went over with the Samato. Match 8, that was match 7, by the way. Match 8, it was the varsity. Match 8, it was the varsity. Match 8, it was the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, versus Jake Logan and Aaron Rourke. That was a quick match, but the ending to it, the Varsity Blondes went over cause Brian Pillman Jr. pinned Jake Logan with the springboard clothesline. But before the match, Jake Logan and Aaron Rourke attacked Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison and beat the shit out of them, but Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison ended up getting offense in and everything before the match, which that was cool. Match 9, it was Thunder Rosa versus... match 9, it was Thunder Rosa versus Catalina Perez. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Thunder Rosa went over with the Perverian Calavera choke. Match 10, it was The Blade versus Chuck Taylor. That was a great match, but the ending to it, The Blade went over with a roll-up, but after the match, Chuck Taylor attacked the Blade and was beating the shit out of him, and the Hybrid 2, which are Angelico and Jack Evans, came out and attacked Chuck Taylor from behind and beat the shit out of him, and the Blade joined in, and the Blade joined in along with Angelico and Jack Evans and beating the shit out of Chuck Taylor while the Bunny was skipping around in the ring, and Orange Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy came out, and the Blade, Angelico, Jack Evans, and the Bunny retreated, and Orange Cassidy and and as the Blade, Angelico, Jack Evans, and the Bunny left, Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy stood tall, which that was cool. Match 11, it was the Hardy Family Office, which are Matt Hardy, Mark Quinn, and Isaiah Cassidy versus... Match 11, it was the Hardy Family Office, which are Matt Hardy, Mark Quinn, and Isaiah Cassidy versus the Dark Order, which are Alex Reynolds, 5, and Colt Cabana. That was a great match, but the ending to it, the Hardy Family Office went over cause Mark Quinn pinned 5 with the gin and juice from Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. Well, before the match, Mark Quinn, while Matt Hardy was still in the ring, Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy went out of the ring as Alex Reynolds, 5, and Colt Cabana were making their entrance. A brawl ensued between the Hardy Family Office and the Dark Order before the match, which that was cool. Match 12, it was Hikaru Shida versus Reka Tahaka. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Hikaru Shida went over with the katana. And match 13, which was the main event, it was Pena El Cerro Miedo and Eddie Kingston versus the Hybrid 2, which are Angelico and Jack Evans. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Pena El Cerro Miedo and Eddie Kingston went over cause Pena El Cerro Miedo pinned Jack Evans with the Fear Factor. Now, besides the matches, AEW aired some footage of what happened when AEW Dynamite went off the air last week when the Elite, which are Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, and the Hardy Family Office, which are Matt Hardy, Mark Quinn, and Isaiah Cassidy, when they stood tall, Pena El Cerro Miedo and Eddie Kingston came out, and the Elite and the Hardy family office retreated, and Pena El Cerro Miedo and Eddie Kingston helped Christian Cage and Jungle Boy up, and Eddie Kingston got a microphone and cut a promo and was pretty much putting Jungle Boy over, saying that he was the future of professional wrestling, and he put over Christian Cage, saying that Christian Cage was a legend. Eddie Kingston also put over Pena El Cerro Miedo, saying that he was his best friend and everything, and Eddie Kingston was also putting over AEW, saying that AEW cared about the fans and the talent weren't there for their paychecks. They were just there. They were there because they loved being there and loved entertaining the fans and everything. And Eddie Kingston was pretty much burying WWE about the whole WWE not caring about their fans or their talent or anything like that, and everything, and so Eddie Kingston, Pena El Cerro Miedo, Christian Cage, and Jungle Boy stood tall and celebrated and everything, which that was cool. Now, besides all that, Now, besides all that, Tony Schiavone and Paul White done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. And the referees for the event were Frank Gastineau, Mike Posey, Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between the Gun Club versus the Wingmen. Mike Posey refereed the match between Penelope Ford versus Valentina Rossi. Rick Knox refereed the match between Brian Cage versus Serpentico. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Carl Anderson versus Wheeler Yuta. That was Bryce Remsburg, by the way. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between the Nightmare Family versus Liam Gray, Adrian Alanis, and Justin Carino. Paul Turner refereed the match between The Acclaimed versus Matt Justice and PB Smooth. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Riho versus Kylan King. That was Bryce Remsburg, by the way. Frank Gastineau refereed the match between the Varsity Blondes versus Jake Logan and Aaron Rourke. That was Frank Gastineau. That was Frank Gastineau, by the way. Mike Posey refereed the match between Thunder Rosa versus Catalina Perez. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between The Blade versus Chuck Taylor. Rick Knox refereed the match between the Hardy Family Office versus the Dark Order. Paul Turner refereed the match between Hikaru Shida versus Rekka Tahaka, and Mike Posey refereed the match between Pena El Cerro Miedo and Eddie Kingston versus the Hybrid 2. All the referees done awesome as usual. Now anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dark Elevation from last night, which was June 28th, 2021. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish. And with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road. Peace out.